Anyhow, you know who is not going to be living in any posh accommodations, apparently, going forward? Poor Ridge Holland. You've been keeping up with this, Brian, but for the listeners' edification, Ridge Holland, the WWE talent, we've talked about him a couple times, but he apparently got hurt. Yeah, and when he was working on a TNA show against one of the TNA talents that was at Moose, I can't remember. But however he got hurt, the point is he's been out injured. The WWE has been paying for his rehab and paid for his medical care, whatever. But the story came out a week or two ago that they weren't going to renew his contract when it was coming up here in mid-November. And he managed to get them to, after his contract was already expiring, he sent out a tweet that pissed him off so bad they fired him 9 days early. So he gets 9 days less pay. This is a first, I think, that I can remember of this ever, isn't it?
What did he tweet out? Because again, I know a little bit about this story, but this
I got it right here. He tweeted out or wrote out or whatever the kids do on the interwebs, right? But this is the statement he made in public. I never thought I'd not be able to pay my mortgage. I feel like I've just been hung out to dry after getting injured working for another company on behalf of WWE. Add that to my contract not being renewed, knowing that I wouldn't be able to wrestle for 7 months. This is brutal. Yes, they are taking care of the surgery and physical therapy, but let's be honest. That's the bare minimum after what we sacrifice for the company. Plus the possibility of having to get my neck fused too. Talk about getting totally fucked. So that doesn't paint a pretty picture, does it?
No, that seems like someone ready for a lawsuit or something.
Well, he was, again, his contract was going to expire, I guess, on November 14th. But after he wrote that, they cut him as basically a breach of contract. Public complaining is a breach of contract now. I mean, I love all parts of this. It's so ridiculous.
Well, to be fair, what would you do if you, and again, it's a publicly traded company, so maybe it's not the same as just if you ran your own little business. But if one of your guys goes out there, you're paying him still. Like you gave him the courtesy of saying you're not going to be coming back. Here's the window, and then it's over. And then he's just like, fuck this, fuck you.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. I'm not on anybody's side in this. I'm going to make fun of everybody. They cut him, so he got like 9 days less pay, right? So then, not only as he couldn't wait 9 days to make that statement till he got the last check, is what I'm saying. But here's another thing. Then they put out a GoFundMe for Ridge Holland. His real name is Luke Menzies, apparently. And would you like to hear the description on the GoFundMe?
Yeah, when you say they put up, you mean him? Like he put up his own GoFundMe? Or someone else?
Well, it wasn't, it's not a fake. It's, if it wasn't him, it's his family or authorized people. A GoFundMe was put out for the family. Let's put it that way. The description was: a loving father of 3 suffered injuries whilst on the job. Injuries that have not only left him unable to work, but also abandoned by the very company he served. Despite being injured at work, he was hired as a 1099 contractor, meaning he's not eligible for workers' compensation, sick leave, or any support from the employer. Since the injury, the company has offered to pay for medical expenses, but no pay, no new contract. The family has already endured a 55% pay cut last year and have done everything possible to reduce their expenses. He is now facing months of recovery including another surgery in March of next year and potentially a neck surgery this month, leaving him unable to work until at least late April or early May if recovery goes as hoped. His wife, who is already stretched thin, caring for him and their 3 young children, is doing her best, but without any nearby family or support system, it's simply not enough. Every day is a struggle mentally and physically. They would like to provide a sense of stability for their children who are watching their world slowly unravel. They're doing everything they can, but it's not enough.
Jesus.
They're at risk of losing their home, of falling into debt they may never escape, of having their kids face a holiday season filled with fear and uncertainty rather than joy. There were $8,761 in donations at press time, of which it says $5,000, basically $1,000 each came from Jinder Mahal, Nick Jackson, Kyle Felcher, Chelsea Green, and Omos. Basically his friends, I guess. But here's the thing, Brian, is that for any situation, that might have been a little dramatic in the wording. But what Uncle Dave is reporting, and again, we take that with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it seems to be in line with what we have heard about the pay scale these days. He says if you figured that he was on a $350,000 to $500,000 contract last year because he was on the full-time roster, and then the the WWE situation was they were going to cut him a year ago. But he asked to stay and work in NXT and would take the pay cut, stay in the system, and admirable of him. But if he went from $350 to $500 on the main roster and he got a 55% pay cut, he was making $157 to $225. He's been in the system. He has been probably better paid since he's been in that system for what, 7 or 8 years now, because he's the one that gave Big E the belly-to-belly suplex on the floor. I'm not blaming him. But that was, what, 5 years ago? However long.
That was when him and Butch were part of Sheamus's group, I believe.
Point is, he's been better paid than almost any professional wrestler, even of a top guy in the territories back in the day. And I know there's inflation, but he's had a stable job making into 6 figures for the past several years. Even if you're going to be out of work for 7 months, is it the point now to begin asking people to contribute to keep you from being homeless? How the fuck? I know that wrestlers are responsible for their travel expenses. That's brought up, and that's why the independent contractor thing is ridiculous and bullshit and all the things that we've talked about. But Jesus H. Christ on a cracker, how much money does one need to stay comfortable for a period of 6 months when you've been making hundreds of thousands of dollars? There's people out there launching GoFundMes for themselves because they make 40 grand a year and a kid got brain cancer or hit by a bus. Having said that, the WWE and TKO in general are a bunch of fucking assholes because they literally can print their own money. And because they have the Republican connections with the head crime family, they're going to make a fucking fortune from now till evermore. And they can't just tell this guy, you know what, we're not going to put you on contract because it ain't working out, dude. And, but since you're hurt and you got hurt in TNA and we told you to go there, we will give you X amount of dollars until you are able to get back in the ring so you can pay your expenses, and they'd never fucking notice it.
Well, I guess that's
So
one of the questions. It's not even just letting him go and him having issues monetarily because that money is gone now, but the idea that he's being let go or now fired while injured. Do you see that as an issue, whether it's this situation in WWE or anyone anywhere? The idea that you get hurt and they fire you while you're hurt?
well, you know, and see, that's again, Vince was at least enough in the wrestling business that unless you did something compound the issue, he wouldn't have made that decision. I know somebody's going to quote me chapter and verse. Well, he did it for so and so. Well, maybe they compounded the issue. I don't know. But no, when you had the capability to take care of somebody, you did. Even the boys might chip in back in the day, like we did for Magnum when he had the car wreck. But a company this size not being able to say, look, we don't want you to wrestle for us anymore. But right now, since you're hurt, instead of paying you your salary, we will pay you X dollars per month to more than cover your living expenses until you can get back in the ring and then be free. And they wouldn't miss it. They're assholes. And Ridge Holland, and I don't know if you can Google quickly how old he might be, but if he's got a wife and 3 kids and he's got to be in his mid-30s, one would think, and he was this close to disaster after making that kind of money while being in the fucking wrestling business, I don't know what to say. Don't have a wife and 3 kids if you want to be a rock and roll star.
37 years old.
37 years old. Everybody is somewhat culpable in this catastrophe that's currently occurring. The WWE are assholes. They're actually not assholes for firing him 9 days early after he buried him like that before he could wait to get his last check. But they're assholes. And Republicans, same thing. And they are fucking the boys. And Jesus Christ, if he was 37 years old, he's been injured a number of times. They told him they were going to cut him last year, and he offered to take less money, which is still in the 6 figures. And he needs a GoFundMe before his fucking contract actually technically runs out. And he's almost 40. Did I mention that? And he's got 3 kids. Son, you should have had a backup plan. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. Again, there's been times when I would sympathize with the boys in situations, but not at this level when guys have had consistent jobs for years and years. There literally used to be situations where guys were, next week I'll be out on my ass unless I get booked or whatever. But and probably still are on the indies today. But Jesus Christ, has everybody gone out of their fucking mind?
Well, good luck, formerly known as Ridge Holland. Because he ain't taking that name with him.
Yeah, he ain't going to be, well, but does he want to? You think he should? Do you think he really should take Ridge Holland? Because they'll remember him primarily as the guy who got fired 9 days early for cutting a promo on Twitter, and secondly for dropping Big E on his head. So maybe he should start fresh.
Should he tweet out positive things about Mother Teresa Tony Khan?
Boy, howdy. What would they do over there with him if, I don't know. I don't know what, but to what, maybe he ought to go into real estate or something like that. He's got a pleasant smile. Or maybe he could go, he's got a big physique. He could go into bodybuilding, Brian.
I'm sure.
All he's got to do is change his diet up a little bit, eat better. We could help him with that. And then if he's got the right nutrition going into him, Well, then he could pump up his body a little bit as he recovers from his injury, and he'd be right as rain. And when Vince wants to start the World Bodybuilding Federation again, boom, right there he is. You know how he's going to do that, Brian, with that diet?
How?
He's going to talk to our friends at Factor. That's how he's going to be doing that thing there.
Good deal.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this right now, Factor is ready for the fall, because fall always feels like the reset time. Your hurry-scurry world, back to school, busier routine, shorter days. You know, it gets dark only 3 hours after it gets light now. You've got a very short window. The vampires are running wild. So finding time to cook can be tough, and that's why we all love Factor, because they've got chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals that make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious, no matter how hectic your season gets. The dietitian that approves it is secondary only to the chef that preps it, Brian, because now they've got more variety, the premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp, the GLP-1 friendly meals, the new Mediterranean diet options. For example, the cream of ocelot soup, the gecko flanks, and yak gravy. And for the first time, you can try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavor, influenced by China, Thailand, and more things in Asia. Why are you laughing? Those are all in Asia.
I'm just thinking how delicious that yak soup must be.
No, it's the ocelot soup. It's yak gravy. What's the matter with you? You can't make gravy out of... For heaven's sake. Folks, for more choices and better nutrition, 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. 3% were unavailable to comment because of the feeding tube, but still, they would feel the same way if they were conscious.
That 3% were not a part of the official statistics supplied by Factor. Delicious food.
No, we're
Factor.
trying to cover them up. They're not a part of anything official anymore. As a matter of fact, we paid the families.
Let me just say, the last batch of food I got, part of their Protein Plus plan, was delicious. It was just amazingly good salmon. And I don't know why I'm yelling. And the chicken was great too. Sorry, Jace.
I'll tell you what, that's right. Whether it's yard bird, folks, or it's chicken of the sea, or whatever you want, Factor has it. And right now, you can not only eat smart, but you can save money. Because right now, if you eat smart at factormeals.com/JCE50 off, that's the code, folks, JCE50 off. You're going to get 50% off your first box and free breakfast for 1 year. That's code JCE50 off at factormeals.com. 50% off your first box, free breakfast for 1 year. Now, it depends on what you want to eat for breakfast. Now, we had some people saying, well, they wanted filet mignon and lobster for breakfast. That's not a normal breakfast food. You have to stick inside some kind of realm of reason. But you can get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. And once again, that offer only valid for new Factor customers with the code JCE50 off and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. They bring the food to your door. You pop it in the microwave. It's in a tray. So you don't even have to use a plate. I haven't washed dishes in fucking 3 weeks. Of course, some of the glasses are getting a little dingy.
Again, keep your kitchen clean. Make sure that your family's safe from all those germs, but good food is a big part of the equation. Good.
Well, you're not getting any germs from Factor.
No, you're not, but chef prepared and delicious food. That's the Factor way, Jim.
If you don't wash the inside of your oven and shit drips on it, that's not our fault. You know that could happen. I'll wash the top of the microwave because people don't normally bend over and look up, and you got all that gunk that rises to the top, and it could just heat up and drip right in your soup or nuts or whatever, and then you poison yourself, and then you're dead.
Let's get away from that. That promo code.
Well, wash your microwave and go to Factor Meals.
There you go.
.com
for the living
/JCE50 off, 50% off your first box, the free breakfast for 1 year. No lobster.